get started if everyone is okay with that. Okay, you're able to hear me, right?
Yes, bro.
Yes.
Jayo Radha Madhava Jayo Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Givaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Ram Hare Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radha Hari Govinda Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopal Jaya Jaya Radha Hari Govinda Jaya Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Jayo Radha Sham Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Shri Radhe Jayo Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jayo Vrindavan Dham Jayo Gauranitai Jayo Gauranitai Jayo Prabhupada Jayo Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Haribol Nitai Gaura Haribol Shri Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai, Radha Sham Sundar ki jai, Lalita Devi Vishakha Devi ki jai, Shri Gaunitai ki jai, Shri Giriraj Govardhan ki jai, Samaveta Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much to all the worshipable devotees for joining. Ravi Prabhu, Shital Mataji, Avni Vedahi, Ramohan Prabhu, Shardul family, Puna Mataji, Aparna Mataji, Vinita Mataji, Arundhati Mataji, Rashmi Mataji, Ranganath Mataji. You have so many Matajis actually. It's always seen, and Prabhupada always also mentions that in any spiritual program, the number of female devotees, the respect we call them Matajis, are always more. And because they have a naturally loving heart towards Krishna, so it's easy to dovetail. So Kirti Mataji, Kartik Prabhu, Prabir Prabhu, Lakshya Prabhu, Sudhir Prabhu, Ren Prabhu, Amit Sahu Prabhu, Sucharya Devi Mataji, thank you so much. Aswati Mataji, and to if anyone I missed your name, you're present for my deep obeisance, my humble obeisance at your lotus feet. So, for your association to read Bhagavad Gita together and to take some jewels from the nectar of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita kinchidudhita ganga jalalavakarnika pita sakrit eva murari samarcha na kriyeta yamena charcha. Bhagavad Gita kinchidudhita. That means even one contemplates, reads, hears, understands even little bit about what? About Bhagavad Gita. Little bit. Little bit of what? Sakradeva Murari Samarcha. Hare Krishna, is it okay? Is it audible?
Prabhuji, you were breaking, but now it's okay.
Yeah, it's better now, Prabhuji.
It will happen, it seems, and then because of my network is not so good here, so you may experience that more. But anyways, I was mentioning that even if one does little reading or hearing of Bhagavad Gita, one will not have to face the face of Yamaraj, not created to have a conversation with such a person. Why? Because he's reading the message of Krishna, the words of God, the song of God, Bhagavad Gita. So with that, let's read Bhagavad Gita. ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया कमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथं सिन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधाते तप्त कांचन शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणि मूकं करोति वाचालं I think there were issues again, right?
Yes.
Okay. Something. How is it now?
It's good.
It's
Can hear
okay.
you. Yeah.
Okay, let's see if this works better. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, so anyone remembers what we discussed last time? We're talking about chapter 4 here of Bhagavad Gita. Anyone remembers a few points from what we discussed last time?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. I can reflect upon the last verse, what you did. Devotional service is eternal mood for detachment, figure, and formula for Krishna consciousness is an action. You turned about pseudo renunciation is falsehood. It's a fallacy because it doesn't lead to any result. We should be active in our work, and which would lead to Krishna consciousness slowly and steadily.
Thank you. Just the work will not lead. The work with the spirit of devotion and sincerely trying to achieve, to endeavor for spiritual life will help us in spiritual progress. So we are not saying just do work or just work is worship. We are saying that yes, work can be made into worship if the intention is right, if the endeavor is right, sincerity is there, spiritual enthusiasm. But yes, one should not prematurely give up work. And so we discussed action in inaction and inaction in action. So can someone tell what is action in inaction? You remember we spoke about it?
Prabhuji, action in inaction is akarma. And where like akarma means we'll perform activities, but all will activities with to Krishna, like whatever we'll do, it will be related to Krishna, or will not wait for the fruitive result. Like whatever we'll do, Krishna will give everything to Krishna's feet.
Can I speak?
Yeah. This is actually, Mataji, inaction in action, actually, because the action is happening here, but the result is not there. So this is called transcendental action. This is inaction in action. Right, quite confusing. But the action in inaction, that means the work externally someone is not acting, but still someone is getting the reactions. The pseudo renunciate example we discussed, because no one, we have discussed in Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 that no one can remain without action. Can anyone remain without breathing? Can anyone remain without eating, sleeping? No, they may eat less, they may sleep less, but still one cannot remain without it. So one has to do action. But still, if that is transcendentalized or akarma, that will be inaction in action. So action is happening, but the consequences are not there, or there are only spiritual consequences. That is back home, back to Godhead. Okay.
Okay.
Shall we move on to the next verse? Okay, so let's start with Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 19. Would someone like to read this one? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can I read it?
Yeah, please.
Yasya sarve smarambha kama sankalpa varjita jnanagdidagda karmanam tam ahu panditam buddha.
Okay, translation. Want to read?
One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Wow, thank you so much. So, very, very important point to note here. Full in knowledge, transcendental knowledge, and endeavor or action is devoid of desire for sense gratification. Very, very important. That's a very high stage. Whose every action, yasya sarve samarambha, whose all attempts are karma sankalpa varjitaha. Most of the people, practically majority of the people, why they do action? To get some result, right? And majority of the situations, the result is fruitive action, right? For example, to get a good job, one works hard to get money, to get name, fame, to get some recognition, to get some stuff. Are you still able to hear me?
Yes, but it says recording stop.
Yeah, okay. We'll continue. So majority of the situations, the action is filled with some desires for sense gratification, and that is called kama. We also discussed in chapter 3. Atmendra priti vancha tare bole kam, Krishnera priti ichha dhare premana. When the action is done to please one's own senses or extended senses, someone will say, well, I don't do for anything for myself. Everything I do for my family, my children, my this, my wife, my husband, my parents. But that's also extended sense gratification. Or my society, my people. Oh, I'm Punjabi, so I'll serve Punjabis. I'm from this college, I'll serve people from this college. I am from this color of skin, so I'll serve people of this color of skin. That is material. But one who transcends these understands that that this is all a pure devotee. One who understands this is in full knowledge. We're talking about chapter 4, transcendental knowledge. Who has transcendental knowledge about the Supreme Lord. We discuss in text 4.7, 8, and 9, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, and whose actions are only to please Krishna. So what is a desire? That doesn't mean desirelessness. That means the desire is Krishna Priti Ichha, not for my senses, but to please the senses of the Lord. He is the person whose all reactions are burnt. We discussed last time also the story of a person from Canto 9, chapter 2. I forgot the name actually. No. He was the son of famous one, Prasiddha. Yeah. He accidentally killed a cow. His intention was to save the cow, but in the night it was not clearly seen. He accidentally killed the cow. As a result, Vashishta gave him the curse that you will be born as a Shudra, you will be born in a low class. But because he rendered intense bhakti, he did not have to take birth again. So the reactions of work have been burned by the fire of perfect knowledge, Krishna conscious knowledge. Only a person in full knowledge can understand the activities of the Supreme in Krishna consciousness. So let me connect again because I still have to share my screen as well. You want to hear a story in the meantime? Yes? Okay. How many of you have heard Alvars? You heard the name Alvars? From South India? Some may have heard, right?
Alvars and nanners.
They are the great devotees in the Dravid Desha or South India. Very, very exalted souls. Very, very like pure devotees. So there are 12 Alvars, I believe. But 10? So there are, and like Andal is one of them. There's like books written about these, and these are all incarnations of the different either elements of the Supreme Lord, or like some is incarnation of Garuda, some Krishna is Kaustuba Mani, etc. So the point is, they were all pure devotees who spread the pure bhakti, the teachings of pure bhakti in the South India, devotees of Lord Ranganatha. And one such Alvar, and they had all the siddhis, and so do their disciples also. So they certainly fall in this category. Of course, so many others also, but I'm just sharing a story about one of the Alvars. So what happened, once upon a time, one of the Alvars, they wanted to build a temple for the pleasure of the Lord. But people, in spite of having wealth, they don't want to part away with the wealth because of attachment. No one wants to give for a spiritual cause. For a spiritual cause, $5 seems to be a very big amount. For one's own sense gratification, $500 also seems to be a very small amount. This is Kali Yuga. So the point is, no one wanted to give. So this Alvar said, okay. And he had wonderful disciples. And they had also said these Anima, Mahima, Lagima, like to become what they want to know, like getting anything what they want, smaller than the smallest, bigger than the biggest. We have heard these siddhis. Of course, our goal is not to get these, but this is like a byproduct. The pure devotees may have these. They will not show. Their goal is not to show these siddhis, but they may sometimes exhibit for some special causes. So the point is that these people were not willing to give any of their income because everyone wanted to use things for their own pleasure. So he had multiple disciples. One of them was very good in picking locks. Like he could pick locks, a special siddhi here. One of them could walk on water. One of them could, had the power to convince someone of anything he wanted to. He had the special power that whatever he will say, people will be convinced to do that. A lot of siddhis, right? You want to get those siddhis? Anyone? Right. So, and they knew some dacoits, so they made a plan that let's make a plan with the dacoits that we will do kind of some looting and build a temple, and we'll give dacoits some share. So we're talking about, we cannot understand the activities of the pure devotees because they're completely on the spiritual platform. So that's the context we are talking about. So they made a plan, and the person who had the siddhi of picking the locks, so went with the dacoits and they looted good amount of money. and they were supposed to give a share to the dacoits. That's how dacoits were agreed to the proposal. But that time passed, and the dacoits were kind of waiting for their share. So that time didn't come. Dacoits were, getting angry. And then this person who had the siddhi of convincing anyone of anything, he said, well, dacoits, why don't we go for a boat ride? So they said, okay, let's go for a boat ride. He has a special power to convince. So they were convinced. And now all the dacoits on the boat, and this person who had the siddhi to walk on water was also on the boat. There was only one. And guess what? There was a hole in the boat. So the boat, as it went inside the water, it was sinking and sinking. And in the middle of deep water, it sank. So all the dacoits sank in the water. But that devotee had the siddhi to walk on water, so he could come back. So it may seem little, what is this going on? But it is this, those who are completely acting on this spiritual platform, we cannot understand their activities. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada's activities are also misunderstood by other so-called devotees. Hey, how is he traveling across the ocean? Sannyasis are not supposed to travel across the ocean. Sannyasis, he would sometimes get angry, transcendental anger, to rectify some of the situations, or some of, to guide. A guru can get angry on the disciples. He would sometimes wear expensive watch, and sometimes be in a hut, or so, but sometimes in a very expensive car or a flight. But the point is, it's all for the pleasure of Lord, devoid of any desire for sense gratification. Because the only intention is one. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kurunandana. And that intention, that desire, is to serve Krishna, to please the senses of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, such a person is not caught up in the cycle of action and reaction. Whatever that person does is basically free from any material reaction. And this is the fundamental, one of the main teachings of Bhagavad Gita. I'm having little difficulties on sharing, so let's see. Okay, now let's try now. Okay, text 20. Someone wants to read? Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
Dandavad pranam, everyone. Text 20. Tyaktva karma phala sangam nitya trito nirashraya karmane abhipratopi naiva kinchit karotisha.
Yeah, can you read this as well?
Sure, Prabhuji. Can you scroll, Prabhuji?
It's not
Prabhuji.
in the translation, Prabhuji.
Yeah, it's stuck on the text.
Okay, if anyone is joining from laptop, can you share the screen? Because I'm using my laptop, which has the network issues. My phone is working fine, so I can hear you properly, but if anyone can share the screen, the Veda base 4.20, that would be, I'll be very grateful. Anyone joining from laptop? Let's see who does it the fastest. I'll read in the meantime while someone is figuring out. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action and although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. So we discussed this point, and if you remember, the acronym is EARS, chapter 4 acronym: Eternal Education, Accurate Understanding. The R is removing the reaction. So we are from text 16 to 24, talk about removing the reactions. Thank you, Prabhu. If you could just zoom in a little bit, that would be great too. So abandoning the attachment to his activities. In short, the word used is tyaktva karma phala sangam. Phala asanga. That means not be attached to the fruit of our actions. We have to do our best and leave the rest on Krishna. Marubi rakhobi amito tumar. Because when there is attachment, then there is a problem. If I study thinking I have to, if I don't, some people are so attached to getting the first position that when they don't get the first position, they commit suicide, right? Attachment. That's also, it's not, we are not saying that one should not aspire for, one should certainly aspire for. But when the work is done, then one should just leave the rest on the Supreme Lord. Whatever Krishna, your plan is, I will happily embrace it. And it doesn't mean that one should not be engaged. We discussed the example of Prabhupada moved around 12 times across the globe to help was he involved in all kinds of undertakings? Building temple, does it involve undertakings? Having disciples, traveling across the globe, starting so many centers, conducting programs, lectures, festivals, initiations, marriages. Does it involve undertakings? Absolutely. For someone who's doing a small Bhakti Viksha program, we know how much undertaking is to so much coordination, cooperation, services, and scheduling, and managing finances, managing so many things have to be taken. But if the goal is, this is not for my pleasure, this is for Krishna's pleasure, then it is great. It is transcendental, and it must be done, because we are not just armchair. Bhakti is not armchair philosophy, just to sit at one place and just, okay, I'll just do my chanting, my reading. That this is not spiritual life. One should take all kinds of undertakings based on one's nature, desires, etc., and do one's best. This is a karma. This is the art of removing the reactions, not only of those reactions, but also committed in the present, this body, and in the previous millions of lives. Everything will be burned by the fire of transcendental knowledge, by Krishna consciousness, in short. So let's move on to the next verse, 21. Thank you, Prabhu, for sharing the screen. Yes, so would someone like to read that one?
I can read, Prabhuji. Dhanyavad pranam, everyone. Bhagavad Gita 4.21. Nirashiryata chittatma tyakta sarva parigraha satram kevalam karma kurvan napnoti kibisham. Translation. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence, perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. Back to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Nirasha. Not nirasha means sadness also, but in this case, nirashi means, asha means Abhilasha. Asha means desire. My desire is to get this, my desire is to get that. But a person in pure Krishna consciousness, having transcendental knowledge of the self and the Supreme Self, acts without the desire for result. Again, this point is mentioned in a different way. Chit Atma, with controlled mind and intelligence. Tyaktva Sarva Parigriha, without the sense of ownership. We also discussed that in the previous verses. So Krishna is repeating those points. Why? Because they're so important. Shariram Kevalam Karma. Sharir means body, Keval means only. So only to keep the body together, not to build one mansion and for my next generation, for my 7th generation, and then for my 8th generation, because there is no end to it, right? So the main goal is, of course, the very high standards for pure devotion, transcendental knowledge. And it does not mean if Krishna gives that devotee more, that means he will use. It does not mean that it is said by one nice Vaishnava that when Krishna gives someone more, don't increase the standard of living, increase the standard of giving. It's not that, okay, earlier I had a X car, now I'll buy a 5 times X car. Or I had a watch for $10, I'll buy $1,000 watch. Or 2,000, I don't know how much the expensive watch costs. But the point is there is no end. There must be a watch for $1,000. There must be a watch for $10,000. There must be a watch for $100,000. There is no end to that thing. And one can continue buying that and continue to be in that thing. But simple living is the idea here. Because the more we keep adding, the more complicated it will be to maintain also, right? If someone loses a $10 watch and someone loses a $1,000 watch, would the reaction be same? What do you all say? No, right? The same thing which a person thought will give me pleasure, the $1,000 watch, after losing, one will get a lot of suffering. What if one loses a $10 watch or a simple watch? The one will not be so stressed about it. Okay. So this is Shariram Kevalam Karma. Kurvan Napnoti Kilbisham. That person will not be affected by the sinful reactions, Kilbisham. Will not acquire Apnoti, will not acquire any. Why? Because he's not acting for one's own pleasure. This reminds me of a story of great devotee. I'm forgetting the name. Does someone recalls the name? The devotee who helped Prabhupada in multiple ways, and his picture is there on the Rath Yatra card. Prabhupada told that his picture should be there on Rath Yatra card. He left early before Prabhupada left because of the cancer.
Prabhu Jayananda.
Oh yes, Jayananda Prabhu. Thank you so much for helping. Yes, so he would do. He was a engineer by profession, automotive engineer, but he would drive taxis. Whole day he would work tirelessly, driving taxis and fixing taxis, fixing cars and stuff. And night he would not sleep, building Rath Yatra cards because of he had that mechanical kind of sense, and building Rath Yatra cards and like serving, 24/7. And his clothes were pretty, and all the Lakshmi he was getting was not, using for himself. He was giving for Prabhupada's books to be printed and other activities to be done. One day someone said that, well, you don't even have a proper shirt. Why don't you at least get a proper shirt? So, well, I don't buy anything for myself. So very exalted person. But someone somehow convinced him at least get a shirt. Okay, he said, okay. He went to a store and picked an orange shirt, yes, and just was walking out. And although he had the money, it's not that he was like stealing or something. And then someone asked, hey, what are you doing? You're stealing, or what what is going on? He says, no, I don't pay for things I get for myself. In a very spiritual and humble way, he said like that. And then they called the police and stuff. And he was so sincere, and so genuine in his intentions. And so the police said, don't bother this person. I will pay the $10, whatever the price of the shirt is. So it's extraordinary. Prabhupada said that his picture should be in all the Rath Yatras in ISKCON, and you will see his picture is always there. Jayananda Prabhu. He was the one actually who introduced, I think, Jayapataka Maharaj also. He was fixing a car. This reminds me of a story. Fixing a car. So he was under the hood. If the car is like here, imagine the tires of the car. He was like underneath. Okay. So his face could not be seen. He was busy fixing the car, looking at the chassis of the car from the ground up. But so a person came, and that person was Jayapataka Maharaj. A person came, started the conversation. This person had both are not seeing each other because he's under the car. But after just having conversation, this person who was talking to him joined the temple. So this is the amazing devotion. So many such examples are there. Prabhupada's each and every action is falls in this category. Without the sense of ownership or proprietorship, we have discussed this before, and just shariram kevalam karma nirashari chittatma yata chittatma. So few points to note here. Prabhupada is mentioning he moves exactly. A Krishna conscious person is always dovetailed with the spiritual supreme desire, for he has no desire for personal sense gratification. Very important point. The desire is not for personal. He moves exactly like a part of machine. We are all part of machine. And to serve, the aim of the machine part is to work as per the designer. And who's the designer? The manufacturer, Krishna. As a machine part requires oiling and cleaning for maintenance, so a Krishna conscious man maintains himself by his work just to remain fit for the action in transcendental loving service of the Lord. He is therefore immune to all reactions of his endeavors. So nice. Immunization, vaccine. So if we also act, we have to take care of the body, we have to take care of the, house stuff, pay the bills and stuff. So yes, we should act. But the goal is, this is Krishna's body, this is Guru's body, this is not my body. I have to maintain it, take care of my health, take care of my food, my diet, my home, because all Krishna's. So in that spirit, without the spirit of ownership or proprietorship, because the real proprietor is Krishna. After a few years, I'll be gone. Few decades, who knows? Few seconds, who knows? But at max 50, 60 years, right? Everyone comes with an expiration date. Every product comes with an expiration date. So the part of this, the body will die. And then who will be the proprietor? I may claim, oh, this phone is mine, this laptop is mine, this home is mine, this is mine. But this is all illusion. So we have to act for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. So let's read the next verse, text 22. Anyone wants to read, please? Yeah, you can. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna. Yatha rache lab santushto dayavantata vimatra shara sama siddhva asidhayo sa kratva vapi na nivedita nivadate. Translation: He who is satisfied with gain which come of his own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady in both success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. Back to you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Again, Actually, in multiple times in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is telling the qualities of great souls. Chapter 2, chapter 4 here, and chapter 15, 16, 18, multiple times Krishna is telling how one should conduct oneself. Yadrichaya. Yadrichaya means out of one's own accord. That means it's not that if I work, if I do over endeavoring, then I'll get more money or more, fame, etc. It's not by one's over endeavor. Yes, one should do dutiful endeavor in a balanced way, and then whatever comes by Krishna's yadrichya, that means by the divine will, one should just accept it, rather than thinking, oh, I'm the owner, I'm the controller, I'm the proprietor. Then one will never be happy. Who is happy with whatever comes by one's own accord, that person is really santushta. Bali Maharaj, in the story of Vamandev, Vamandev tells, when Vamandev had gone to get charity from Bali Maharaj, Vamandev said, Bali, I want 3 steps of land. Bali Maharaj said, well, why don't you ask something big, like a big house, big car, some soldiers, some gold or something. What will you do with 3 steps? Will anyone buy 3 steps of land? What will one do with 3 steps of land? Like 1 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet at max? One can do practically nothing. So Bali Maharaj told this, but Vamandev said, one who is not satisfied with what one has and what comes by one's own accord, one will not be happy. If one is not satisfied with that, the person will not be happy even if one has the kingdom of the 3 worlds. There is enough for everyone's need, but not enough for one person's greed. So, santushta, santosh, happiness, satisfaction. Dvanda, atitaha. Dvanda. Dvanda means duality. Not too much happy when things go right, not too much sad when things are not going as per way. Health and disease will come, trying to being sober. Wealth and poverty will come, trying to being equipoised. Sometimes people will give respect, sometimes people will spit at us or say wrong things, being equipoised. So sometimes family will be happy, sometimes family will complain. Sometimes job situation may be good, sometimes it may not be good. So dvanda, these are all dualities. Any extremes, like a pendulum oscillating left, north, south, east, west. There will be ups and downs in everyone's life, in every aspect. But one has to learn to surpass them. That's what Krishna is teaching. Vima vi matsara, nirmatsara, free from envy. Matsara means envy. Bhagavatam also is for nirmatsara. Krishna said to Arjuna, I'm giving you this knowledge because you are anusuyava, another synonym of freedom from envy, or nirmatsara, anusuyava. One who is non-envious only can understand this science. Samaha. Sama means, again, steady, same. This word same comes from the Sanskrit sama. Siddhava, that person. Siddha, asiddha. So success or failure. Sama. Again, this is also one of the dualities, success or failure, victory or defeat. Kritva na nibadhyati. That person is not affected by performing action. So because whatever action that person is performing is transcendental, not for his own self, but for the supreme self, that is the supreme personality of Godhead, and that is devotional service, or that is bhakti. Action, inaction, in action. Okay, let's read the next one, 23. Yes, Vidhi.
Okay. Sasangasya muktasya jnanavastitacetasa yagnaya charta karma samagram praviliyate. Translation. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So similar point which we are discussing, who is Jnana Vasudha. Again, this chapter is Jnana Yoga, or what are we talking about? Transcendental knowledge. What is the transcendental knowledge? About the Supreme Lord and the Self and this akarma, the science of karma, akarma. What action will lead to what kind of reactions, and what action will lead to transcendental reaction. For the sake of yajna. Now yajna acharata karma. So yajna has multiple meanings, but Krishna is, one of the names of Krishna is Yajna. Vasudeva para makha, Vasudeva para yoga, Vasudeva para kriya, Vasudeva param jnanam. This is a verse in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam 1.2. So ultimately, all the activities are for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Samsiddhim haritoshanam. Dharma sunishchita pumsam vishvaksena kathasoya nautpadyat yadiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. All the activities, all the so-called dharma, if it does not awaken attraction to Krishna, or if it does not please Krishna, then it's shrama only. Shrama means futile endeavor. Like a donkey also does a lot of shrama. He's a very hard worker. But just being hardworking is not what Bhagavad Gita is saying. Hard work to please Krishna. That's what Bhagavad Gita is saying. Because if hard work, if just work is worship, then donkey is the best pujari. But what is the object of his worship? Is sense gratification. To get the carrot, or to get the she donkey, or the he donkey, whatever. You have heard this story, the donkey's master told that that the donkey, there's one carrot is always there in front of the donkey, and he's very hardworking, carrying lots of loads but the goal is to please one's own sense gratification, in short. So gata sangasya muktasya cha, gata sangasya muktasya yajna chara karma, yajna chara karma. So again and again, this point is coming in the last few verses, that Krishna consciousness, it means to work hard, do all kinds of undertaking without the sense of proprietorship, without having this controllership idea, without having attachment to the results, without having a desire for sense pleasure or selfish agendas. But at the same time, one should have spiritual agendas, one should have spiritual desires, one should have do a lot of hard work for pleasing Krishna. Then that person will go back home, back to Godhead. That person will be free from the actions of birth and death, and from the cycle of birth and death. So let's read the next verse. If anyone has any comments or questions before that, you can. Yes, Avni. I'm on a small screen, so if you could, raise your hand if anyone has to speak, or raise. I can only see the, on the phone, just the first four. So yes, please.
Abhi wants to read, Prabhuji, the next one.
Yes, please.
Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir Brahmnagno Brahmanahutam Brahmevatena Gandavyam Brahma Karma Samadhina. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So from this point, Lord Krishna is explaining the different kinds of yajna. So let's understand this verse. The word Brahma here means spiritual or transcendental. It's not Brahma, the Lord Brahma. It's not Parabrahman, Supreme Lord. It's the spiritual, anything spiritual. And we'll discuss what are the elements being discussed here. Brahma Arpanam, right? Is okay. So first, let's take some discussion. How many of you have participated in yajna? When we talk about yajna, the first thing which comes in mind is some kind of fire sacrifice. That generally, can anyone tell like what are the elements of a fire sacrifice, or what are the like homa, etc.? What are the things and required to do it nicely? Anyone?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Usually, fire sacrifice with the ghee. Ghee is offered.
Yeah. Yeah, Parna Mataji, can you please mute yourself? It's yeah, you said ghee, right? Ghee. So ghee is this. Hare Krishna. Parna Mataji.
Mute Rhoda.
Yeah, Parna Mataji, there is a lot of disturbance on your side, maybe the background. I request you to please be on mute. So one was havi or ghee, butter, clarified butter, I think. Brahma havi, that's also mentioned here. Okay, what next? Anyone else? Yeah, please unmute. I can't see everyone, so just unmute and speak if you don't have a background noise.
Yeah.
Some kind of seeds.
Like grains, I think.
Yeah, grains.
Grains, yes. Very nice.
Need
What?
fire.
Foods and dry tulsi sticks.
Okay, so all these will be called as havi. Okay, all these will call ingredients which are offered in the yajna, like ghee, grains, etc., some fruits, some havishya, anna, etc. So let's call them as havi. Okay, what else is required?
Fruits, different kinds of fruits.
Okay, what else?
A qualified priest.
Yes, qualified priest, and that's called the karta, right?
And mantra.
The mantras are required. The activity, the fire is required, right? The Brahma Agnav. Okay, Brahma Arpanam. So let's go back to this word, Brahma Arpanam. Brahma Havi, Brahma Agnav, Brahma Hutam, right? Who's the performer, and what else? Brahma Tena, who's offering, and Gantavya. Gantavya means destination. So Brahma Gantavya, spiritual destination. Brahma Karma Samadhina, who's offering all these. So let's write this very, very important sentence which Gauranga Darshan Prabhu mentioned. Spiritual oblations, Arpanam, okay, offered with spiritual instruments, havi, or ingredients, in the fire, in the spiritual fire or agni, by a spiritual person Huta will lead to spiritual destination, Gantavya, because it is offered by absorption in spiritual activities, Brahma Samadhi. Okay, I repeat this point. Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, spent 8 hours, he said, to write this 4 lines, discussing, understanding a lot of commentaries from Baldev Vidyabhushan, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's commentary. So very important, and it makes it easy to understand. So 6 items, 6 spiritual items we're talking about. Spiritual oblations or arpanam offered by spiritual instruments. There is instruments also required, right? Or you pour a ghee with a ladle, or we don't put ghee with our hands so there is instruments required to put those. They are called Shubha or arpanam here, to put the ingredients in the spiritual fire, Agni, by a spiritual person, Huta or Pujari or priest, Brahmana, will lead to spiritual destination, Gantavya, number 5, and because that person is absorbed in spiritual activities, Karma Samadhina. Can anyone repeat these 6 things if you understood nicely? Or should I say one more time? Did everyone get the 6 things we are talking?
One more time, Prabhuji.
Sure. Number 1 is spiritual oblations. Okay. Arpanam. How they should be offered, the ingredients and the instruments have to be spiritual. That is Havi. In the Agni or the fire, that's spiritual Agni. Number 3. Number 4, by a spiritual person. It's not any Tom, Dick, Harish can do yajna and all that. This has to be a qualified Brahmana, priest, spiritual person. Hey, Huta. Number 5, will lead to spiritual destination. Gantavya. Gantavya means destination. Number 6, Brahma Karma Samadhina, because that person is offering with spiritual activities. It's not a material activity. It's not for sense gratification. And it's with complete absorption, Samadhina. These are the 6 Brahma or 6 transcendental items mentioned here. Is that okay? Did everyone get it, or should I repeat one more time? Everyone got it? Everyone can explain to your friend, mother, father, neighbor tonight or after the program? If the answer is yes, then you got it. If the answer is no or not sure, then that means you didn't get it. Is everyone okay? Okay. I can't really see much, so you can always unmute and speak. So yes, so now, but these are different for different, right? Like brahmachari, grihastha, different ashrams, different things are there. Okay, but very, very, these are important things, and which we will discuss this in the following verses, like how it's different. What is the arpana? What is the havi? What is the agni? What is the gantavya or phala, also result? And who is the karta or hetu? Okay, for different categories.
Prabhuji, can you please tell the number 6?
Yeah,
Brahma,
number 6. Brahma karma is spiritual activities with absorption. It's not that we are doing yajna and thinking of office and thinking of something. Samadhina. Samadhi. Dhi means intelligence. Sama means, we discussed multiple times, is equipoise. Our intelligence is absorbed. So, and we will talk about chanting also, how chanting also falls in these categories. So, Brahma karma. Is that okay? Spiritual activities.
Yes. Right.
Okay, so let's read the next verse, 25. Anyone wants to read? Please unmute and.
Can I, Prabhuji?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Daivam eva pare yagnam yogina
Paseta Brahmagna Apere Yagne Naiv Upaju Uvati. Translation. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahman. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. So in text 25, we are talking about two kinds of people. And now for those who want to take this study seriously, you can draw a table. The rows will be about 6-7 rows and multiple columns. So row number 2 can be Arpanam. What is the ladle? Row number 1 will be the process, or row number 2 is Arpanam, Brahma Arpanam. What are the ladle or the Shruva? How the medium to offer. Havi, what are the ingredients? Row number 4 is Agni. Row number 5 is Karta or performer or Hetu, Heta. Row number 6 is Phala or Gantavya. So text 25a, what's the process? Karmakand. They worship demigods. So they're offering, what is the Agni in this case? Demigods. I have made actually a table, but I'm having difficulty in sharing my screen. Next time I'll share. So the process is Karmakanda. The Arpanam, what are the ways we are offering? So Karmakanda rituals. There are a lot of ritualistic things like do this, do that, oh, do this vrata, that vrata. What is the Havi or the ingredients? Is offering different items like material possessions, offering some money or offering some material possessions. Who is the Agni to whom we are offering the material possession offered to demigods? Who is the Karta or the doer? Is a Karmakandi, a materialistic person. And what is the Phala or Gantavya? Material happiness or maybe higher planets. Right? Should I repeat it again for the first text 25a, or is it clear? Can anyone repeat it? Text 25a.
Can you repeat it, Prabhuji?
Okay, sure, absolutely. So in text 25, first part, we are talking about Karmakanda process. Arpanam refers, first understand these words. Arpanam means the process, basically. What are we offering? So Havi is the items, ghee, butter, etc. But these will be different. We'll continue this discussion till text number 28. And there will be multiple, there will be 8-9 columns, 8-9 different people, how a brahmachari does differently, how a grihastha does differently, dravya yoga. So we will continue this next time also. But the first piece of the discussion is Karmakanda. Okay, the first or the second column after the first column of Arpanam, Havi, Karta, and Phala. Karta means doer. Phala means result. Agni is to whom it is offered. In the Agni, we offer the Havi, right? So now in the demigod worship, what is the Agni? Where are we offering? To the demigods. What are we offering? Material possessions. So that becomes the ingredient or Havi. Who is the Karta? A person who follows Karmakanda or materialistic people. And what is the result? Phala or Gantavya? To get material happiness, to get higher destination. The result is not the topmost destination, right? The result is not spiritual world. So is that okay? So this is the demigod worship, which which Bhagavad Gita talks about demigod worship in multiple chapters again. This is not the best thing, but eventually if someone does, this is better than nothing. So, but the real goal is, as we have discussed this earlier also, If someone is doing karma kanda, from karma kanda to karma yoga, it's a journey. If someone is doing this, one will get association of brahmanas, one will at least partake some of his income for something, demigods. If and knowingly, unknowingly, all these mantras, tantras also have the names of the Supreme Lord, and which is like a sugar-coated medicine. They want material happiness, but the Vedic scriptures are smart. So even if someone wants so-called material enjoyment, it's like there would be some sacrifice, some knowingly, unknowingly, some they will chant the names of Vishnu, they'll chant the names of Krishna, and then that will eventually help that person to eventually progress from karma kanda to karma yoga. Now the next 25b talks about jnana yogis. So in the next line, if you see there, Prabhupada, this in the translation, some offer sacrifice in the fire of Supreme Brahman. So the arpanam is mental speculation, chanting Om, 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 Shanti, Shanti. The havi is to lose one's identity or individuality, or the ingredients. The Agni is the fire of impersonal Brahman, right? Is it too complex, or is everyone able to understand? Is it too complex?
No.
No, Prabhuji, we can understand.
So the Jnana Yogis. First we talk about the Karma Kandis, we're talking about the Jnana Yogis. Speculation, mental speculation is they do that, chanting a lot of Vedic mantras, Om. They want to lose their individuality. That's a havi. They want to, and some offer sacrifices in the fire of Supreme Brahman, referring to the impersonal Brahman. Who is the Karta? Jnana Yogi. Jnana Yogi is the Karta. And what is the goal? Or Gantavya or Phala, fruit, to merge in the impersonal Brahman, which is one of the fifth type of mukti, or sa yujya. But this is not what a devotee aspires. So this is not the topmost thing we are talking about. Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport, those who are in Krishna consciousness sacrifice all material possessions for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, while others who want temporary material happiness sacrifice their material possessions to satisfy the demigods like Indra, Surya, etc. And the impersonalists sacrifice their identity by merging into the existence of impersonal Brahman. So you'll find whatever we are discussing is basically from Prabhupada's purports only. It's not that I'm talking from somewhere else. So, and I encourage, I think some of you are already doing it. For those who are not doing, whatever section we read, you can read it before the class or after the class, but please try to read that section, whatever verse we cover. The Krishna conscious person, the last few lines, like Arjuna, however, sacrifices everything upon the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and thus all the material possessions as well his own self, everything. Manas deho geho, jo kichu more, arpita nand, arpita tula pada nand kishore. Whatever, manas deha geha, deha my body, geha home. Jo kichu more, whatever so-called mine, my family, my wealth, my home, my this, my that. Arpita Tula Pada Nanda Kishore. Oh Nanda Kishore Krishna, it is for at your lotus feet. My life, my family, my home, my everything. Sarvasya Tomar Charane Pariya. Everything is yours. Sarvasya Tomar. This is the first class yogi. But he does not lose his individual existence. Our goal is not Sayujya Mukti, but back home. To not lose the individuality, but rather to be to serve Krishna in different rasas. Any comments? Any additions?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, for Gyan Yoga, Agni is impersonal Brahmin, and then Karta, Hetu also impersonal Brahmin.
No, Karta is the doer. Gyan Yogis is the doer.
Gyan Yogi, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Karta is generally the whatever the process is, or who is doing that process is that Karta. Like Karma Kanda process, Karma Kandi, materialistic sacrifices. Very nice. Anyone else? Any other comments? Let's maybe kind of pause here. We covered a lot of things. I don't want to overwhelm with just ingredients. So let's pause here and take some reflections, questions, additions. Anything struck you? Anything is not so clear? Anything you want to clarify or add or ask? Please, this is the time to share something. Anyone?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, for Gyan Yoga, the last is follow or Gantavya. And what is Gantavya here for Gyan Yoga?
Gyan Yoga, the Gantavya is to merge in the impersonal Brahman.
Okay.
That's their goal. The light, the effulgence of the Lord, Supreme Brahman. Thank you. Anyone else?
How can we put our endeavors above duality? Can you reflect on this again?
How can we put our endeavors above duality? Is that the question?
Yeah.
That's a very nice question. And I'll also just repeat for my purification so I can try to follow what I've heard. Easier said than done. See, attachment and, this is called like lamentation and hankering. Either we are lamenting for something or we are hankering for something. This is the main duality. Either we are celebrating the victory or we are regretting for the loss. These are the dualities. But one has to understand that I'm not the doer. I'm not the controller. The more we have this tendency to control my wife, control my family, control the results, control my promotion, control my salary, control my this, control my that, the more we will have this tendency to suffer actually. The more we want to control, the more we will suffer. The more we will be caught up in the grip. Because it's not that our endeavor will lead to it's not that our endeavor only will lead to the result. We have discussed this. The jiva desires, Krishna sanctions, and material nature fulfills that. If the material nature does not allow, like for example, I want it to rain, but it's sunny outside. See, I have this mentality controller. I want to. It's not under my control whether it will be sunny or rainy. What is in my control? To accept that arrangement of the Lord. Whether it's sunny, I'll accept it. Whether it's rainy, I'll accept it. But if I, Gaur Gopal Prabhu once he said a poem in our college. By the rule, man is a fool. When it is hot, he wants it cool. When it is cool, he wants it hot, always wanting what is not. Right? So we have to accept that very insignificant thing is in our control. Correct? I gave the example of birth and death. Is it in our control? Can doctors say, oh, everything is in our control? No, they can do their best, but it's not that they can. No, sometimes the person has 1% chance of being saved, but that person is saved. Some person has 99% chance of being saved, and is dead. So when we try to follow these principles of Bhagavad Gita, that I'm not the proprietor, I'm not the controller, I must do my best to please Krishna. Like someone asked this question that in spiritual life also sometimes we prepare, let's say we prepare for an outdoor program, And then suddenly it just rained like anything, and all the plans were, had to be changed. Now we have a choice. We have a choice to be frustrated about it, or we have a choice to accept it and do something about it, right? We all have a choice how we deal with the situations. So the more we practice bhakti, the more these qualities will develop, and the more we will become sama. The more we'll become equipoised, the more we'll become free from dualities. I'm not yet there, but we're all trying to get there in that direction. So I hope that helps. And understanding these stories, understanding the principles of Gita, and trying to follow it. Whatever we read here, we should follow it today. Okay, today, if a chance comes when I'm, unhappy about a situation or too excited about a situation, I should reflect upon it. We should reflect upon, okay, when was the last time I was feeling very frustrated about a situation? And how could I have done it differently? Then we will try to follow those principles which we are trying to learn. And by practice and by sincere spiritual life, we'll be able to get better and better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wants to say something, ask something, or any reflections you have? Nothing? Who remembers that? The sixth Brahma. Anyone remembers that? Remember, you have to share it with someone, at least share it with someone here who has not yet spoken. Rashmi Mataji, you want to say that? Okay, who wants to say? Unmute and speak, please.
This is the spiritual oblations one. That one.
Yes.
There's spiritual oblations which are offered with spiritual instruments into the spiritual fire by the spiritual person, like a priest, like no ordinary person. And this person attains the spiritual destination. And because this person is doing spiritual activities, it's a karma. So there's no reactions that will tie them to the actions.
Very nice. Very nice. That's perfect. So next time we will continue from here. What are the other 5 elements of other different yoga processes? What are the Agni for Grihastha? What is the instrument for Brahmachari, etc.? We'll talk about it, and maybe we'll be able to. I don't know how many verses this chapter has, so maybe we'll complete this chapter if Krishna willing next time. No, it may take one more time. Any other last closing comments, additions, questions? Okay. So again, thank you so much for your precious time, and I apologize for the inconvenience due to some network issues. So thank you so much for your association and in reading and hearing Bhagavad Gita and trying to understand, and after that we can try to apply. That's the main point, to try to sincerely apply. There will be ups and downs. We have discussed that already. It's not that what we learn in one go we'll be able to 100% follow it. But if we don't even try, then how will we even follow it one day perfectly? But we sincerely try, Krishna will give the strength. We will fall. We have to be keep moving, and keep trying sincerely. The more sincerely we try, the more with sincerity we try, and Krishna will see that and help us out. Bhagavad Gita Upanishad ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Gaur Bhaktavind ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evcha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you for
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you.